let me ask you a question. The masked photo, we are in number 4. How long will you falter between two opinions? If Lord is God, follow him. But if Baal is God, follow him. But the people answered him not a word. What is the masked photo? What do you guys think by this verse? Elijah said to the people, if God is God, follow him. If Baal is God, follow him. But you keep going one here and one time here. You keep faltering between the two camps. Tom?
I think it means that like a masked photo is like something that's supposed to like use to impress people, but it's not actually true. It's a mask.
Very nice. I can put a mask very nice, and I can make you think that I am very righteous. Okay, but I'm doing another thing when I go home that no one of you will know. That's the masked photo. Yes.
I think it could be a form of peer pressure. So you're following the surroundings in general.
Very good. The peer pressure makes me put a different mask. I was telling you yesterday about this boy that in his school, he really was the same guy in the church. And in the street, he was the same guy in the church. And people start to look at him and change. And the whole basketball team changed because this is a guy with one face, no masks. So the masked photo is a big problem today. It's almost like you have an altar, but sometimes you cover it and you make it a studio or a speaker or a place where you put your bike. It's an altar and has to look like an altar, and it's better to look like an altar, and you should not mask it. Number 5, self-image. How do I measure my self-image? 1, how do I compare myself with? Or whom do I compare myself with? Any question, any answers? Yes. Wait for the mic, it's coming. So the question now is, who and what do I compare myself with? Your name and answer.
My name is Michael, and I think you should be comparing yourself with Jesus Christ because you're his image.
Very good. So one of the answers, amazing answer, I compare myself to Christ. But truly, let's not talk because there is filming here. Whom do we compare ourselves with? I mean, forget about the Sunday school answers. Yes.
Usually we compare ourselves with our like friends who are doing something bad, so we say, no, we do good. We're not like them.
Okay, now we're talking. So a girl that doing something very filthy, very dirty, very bad, and I say, oh, I hardly can be, this is nothing compared to me. Yes.
Comparing yourself to media.
Excellent. I like, now we're talking about the real answers, which is I compare myself to media. And I maybe want to be like this woman or this man who is achieved so many likes in his Facebook rather, or he has so many followers and so many Twitters, and all of a sudden I want to be compared to that guy or that girl. So I'm comparing to that person. Any other answers? Christina.
To people more faithful than you, so you think.
That's a very good answer. I compare myself maybe to St. Anthony, to St. Damiana. So, for we dare not class ourselves to compare ourselves with those who commend themselves, but they measure themselves by themselves and comparing themselves among themselves, and they are not wise. See, it's a very nice statement. We keep comparing ourselves to each other, and we compare ourselves to people less than us. So we look better, so we stay like that. Habib.
I think it would be always best to compare ourselves to people that are better than us.
Yes.
So better than us, like success-wise, faith-wise, like in the positive end, not negative end.
Excellent, thank you. Beautiful answer, can be better. Then the next question is, what and who am I compared with? See the verse I put here in Revelation 11, he was given a reed like a measuring rod, and the angel stood saying, rise and measure the temple of God, the altar and those who worship therein. Who and what am I compared with? In other words, this verse, God told the angel, take this measuring rod and I want you to measure each one going into the church. Not their height. It's not like Disney World and you have to be there to enter the ride. No. Actually, he may be somebody that short, but his stature is that big. He can go to any ride in the liturgy. The ride up to communion. That's the super duper ride. That's the best ride. But there are people God will measure them through, and they may be as old as me, but they are very short statured. And when they compared them, he said, I'm trying to measure myself in you. You know, there are so many medical illnesses that results in stunted growth. People who are 20 years old, but they are, for example, midgets. Okay? The problem is, we are growing outwardly, but I wonder if we have a spiritual retardation. Not mental retardation, but spiritual retardation. In other words, can you imagine you are 17 years old, but when Christ measures you, you are 4 years old as far as God. You are not growing. You stopped growing at the age of 4. Nothing had changed. You are just 4. I may be 60 years old, and I'm only 10 years old. But you may be 17, and you're already 25 years in stature. How are we being compared? God has his own measuring rod. Do I see, we're almost there, do I see Christ in others' photos? Oh, sure.
Okay, how about if I have no self-image even to compare myself with people better than me, or like the common people who are worse than I'm better than them? How about if I don't know even who am I? That's why sometimes I go here and sometimes I go there.
Yeah, very good. It's a good question. What if I don't have my own self-image? I already have a very poor image of me. I mean, I just want you to be aware that humility does not mean low self-image. The most humble is the most confident. Not because you have a poor self-image, you think yourself of humble. Pope Shenouda was very humble, but he was so confident. Everybody will listen to him. Everybody will answer. So if you have an issue with your self-image, which a lot of us have, this is where you need to grow and become confident of God in you, who can achieve the best through you. You have confidence in God in you, who can achieve the best through you. And then your self-image will grow. I can do everything in Christ who strengthened me. Everything. I can do everything in Christ who strengthened me. So, do I see Christ in others' photo? No one has seen God at any time. But if we love one another, God abides in us and his love perfected in us. Do I see Christ in others' photos? What do you guys think? St. Paul wrote in Ephesians 4, and be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, just as God in Christ forgive you. Guys, if we do not start seeing Christ in others, then you will never see Christ himself. You want to start seeing Christ in others, even the people who you think they are not important. Because the least important, maybe he's showing some Christ face, some Christ action. Okay? How to transform into his image. Ephesians 5 reads, therefore be imitators of God as dear children. Walk in love as Christ has loved us, given himself for us, an offering and a sacrifice for God for a sweet-smelling aroma. Be imitators of Christ. You know the big notion in the internet one time, what would Christ do in my shoes, in my place? There was even a, WWJD. What would Christ do in my place? What would Christ do? Can you imagine how many things would have been different. And then I'm transforming slowly into his image. Remember, I was created in his image. Now I look a lot different. But every day, I want to look again. I want to look in the mirror and say, oh, I'm losing a lot of love here. Oh, no, I have a lot of envy here. Oh, my thinking is thinking so, I think so bad of people. Rather than I see my hair and my nose and if the makeup is right, I'm looking at the face of Christ and see how farther I became and how much I want to get to be closer to his image. 2 Corinthians 3, St. Paul wrote, but we all with unveiled face, beholding in a mirror the glory of God, being transformed into the same image from glory to glory by the Spirit of God. Every day we are being transformed into the same image. Not Aunt Maggie will have a different image and Irene a different image and Ramis. No, we are all going to become the same image. I imagine all the people in heaven, they have a flavor of Christ in all of them. You see Christ in some sort in everyone. Because the closer you get to Christ, the closer you look at him. It's almost like when you spend, 3 weeks in a very sunny beach, you look so dark because you are closer to the sun, S-U-N. Can you imagine if you are closer to the S-O-N? And every day you are being transformed. But not your skin color, but your virtues, your habits, your relations, your principles. So I discussed these 7 points. What does God's image mean? How am I perceived by others? Do others see me and see the image of God? 3, would God tag me as someone who is well-pleasing to him? 4, the masked photo. 5, the self-image. 6, do I see Christ in others? And 7, how do I transform into his image slowly by slowly? So I want to conclude by saying this altar is the image of God, was created in his image. Each one of you is an altar that looked exactly like Christ the day you were born out of baptism. If you were to die that day, we would have put your picture as a saint next to Marimina, right? I want everyone to tell herself or himself, I was a saint one day. Right or wrong? Right or wrong? I'm not trying to give you a puzzle. It's a true statement. Every single one of us, one day, on the day of my baptism, I was a saint. Saint. They were telling her Axias and telling him Axios, exactly like Demiana and Marimina. Which means you are a saint. All this half hour means one thing. You want to go back to the same image. It's not like we're asking you to develop a new image, identity. It's your identity, it's your image. You just want to go back. You remove a little layers of dirt and sin and other things, and you go a little by little, a day by day, transforming into his image. Glory be to God forever. Amen.